Good morning, afternoon, and welcome to the India Market Knowledge Day for the food and drink sector, and brought to you by the Department for International Trade Southwest, Business West, in conjunction with the Great British Food Programme, the UK India Business Council, and the Forum of Indian Food Importers. My name is Mark Gollop, and I will be your host and chair for today's event. I work at the events team here at DIT. Before we start today's webinar, here are some housekeeping points. If you're having any technical difficulties, please type them into the chat function and direct them to the host, DITSW Events, and we will endeavour to help. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat bar. We have allowed time at the end and in the middle for these to be answered. We'll try our best to get through all of the questions, but those who are unable to answer, we will follow up after the event. In respect for the speakers, please can you keep your microphones muted whilst they're presenting? This will also give the best sound quality for the event. And finally, please note this event will be recorded. As you can see from the agenda on your screens today, we have a very busy hour and a half ahead of us. So we'll start off by listening to the Minister for Exports, Minister Graham Stewart.
Thank you, Mark, for such a warm welcome. I am delighted to join you at this event today as we seek to unpack and understand the opportunities that the Indian market offers UK food and drink companies. Ever since the opening of Britain's first Indian restaurant, London's Hindustan Coffee House, more than 200 years ago, Brits have had a long-standing love affair with Indian food. And we love it so much that we've become pretty good at making it ourselves. And it shows the confidence of the UK food sector that a British baker, Signature Flatbreads in Dunstable, is now exporting naan to the subcontinent. But the more traditional British food and drink offering is also flourishing, with burgeoning demand for UK-produced goods from biscuits to chocolate, whiskey to gin, mustard to marmalade, right across India. And this growing demand for British food and drink is being driven by India's fast expanding middle class, estimated to be 1 billion strong by 2030. And they are increasingly hungry for iconic, high quality UK products made to the very highest animal welfare and environmental standards. British producers seeking to export to new markets worldwide, including India, can find themselves hampered by high tariffs and other market access barriers. However, as a newly independent trading nation, the UK now has a golden opportunity to create our own recipe for trade-led success, unleashing the potential of food and drink firms the length and breadth of the UK. The trade deals we've been negotiating with countries worldwide are, we think, key to this endeavour. This includes pursuing free trade agreements with Japan, Australia and South Korea, and many more, which are aiming to bring down barriers to exports for food and drink firms, helping generate jobs and deliver trade-led growth across the United Kingdom. And during her recent visit to New Delhi, my good friend, the Secretary of State for International Trade, championed our enhanced trade partnership, a landmark moment as we work towards a full free trade agreement with India. And we've got a strong foundation to build on. In 2019, trade between our two countries was worth £23 billion, significant, but just a fraction of what our trade could be worth. Now, as we look to build back better in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, this government is committed to unlocking even greater trade and investment opportunities between the UK and the Indian subcontinent. And the world-class food and drink our two nations produce will be central to any success which results. Now, key to this work is what we're doing to help British producers take that first step into exporting. Last month, DIT launched the Open Doors campaign to help UK food and drink firms connect with new opportunities around the world, including in India. Today's Knowledge Day is part of that campaign. And my department offers a wide range of support to help businesses start or expand their exporting journey. Our Export Academy, which provides a 10-week course of online webinars and masterclasses to help firms gain the skills they need to succeed overseas. Our network across the country of international trade advisors who are working hard to guide and support UK businesses as they look to enter international markets. And our export credits agency, UK Export Finance, which provides the financial backing and insurance that businesses require to secure export contracts around the world. Now, with the Indian consumer market on course to become the largest in the world, there's never been a better time to begin exporting to India. And I hope that today's event might be the first step in helping you to achieve your export goals. Because rather like the spicy curries that UK consumers learned to love 200 years ago, trade in food and drink between the UK and India is set to get hotter and hotter in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Stewart. Our agenda today is for you to have an insight into exporting to India and for some of you to have preparation for Meet the Buyer event coming up, to give you some helpful tips and the chance for you to have some of your questions answered. Today you will hear about regulatory updates, the India market, the future engagements for the Great British Food Programme. But before we hear all about this, I'm pleased to welcome Kevin Mccall, Managing Director of the UK India Business Council. Kevin has been part of the UK IBC since 2008 when he has directed many major projects, including developing strategies to generate more trade and investment between India and Greater Manchester, the Leeds City region and Sheffield City region. Kevin coordinates the work teams across the UK and Indian offices, directly leading with advisory, membership, communication and research teams. He also directs the UK IBC's Ease of Doing Business in India campaign. Over to you, Kevin.
Mark, thank you very much. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone that's with us today. It's fantastic to be involved in this discussion. As Mark said, my job is to provide a bit of context today, and other speakers that follow me will delve into some of the points I make in greater detail. But first, I want to say a few words about how the UK India Business Council and the Department of International Trade collaborate specifically in the food and drink sector. This visual on this slide perhaps oversimplifies things, but it does illustrate our partnership. DIT, as I'm sure you'll know, is the UK government department that helps UK businesses enter international markets, and it helps overseas companies locate and grow in the UK. The UK India Business Council, we may be less well known, but we are an advocacy and advisory organisation working with companies, small and large, and with governments to grow UK-India trade and investment. And we're particularly proud of the partnership we have with the Department of International Trade. Now, in terms of the food and drink sector, the bottom half of the slide lists the various ways in which we help UK companies succeed in India. And when I say we, I particularly mean my colleague Shubhi Mishra, who's going to be speaking to you later and taking part in the Q&A on the panel. Now, what Shubhi and her team do is provide market intelligence to UK businesses. They'll help you find partners and customers in India. They will help you address regulatory challenges, working with, we've got Dr. Amit Sharma from the FSSAI on the video today with us as well. And so we address regulatory challenges with him. And we run delegations and other activities to promote the UK food and drink sector in India. As I've just said, there are regulatory matters that we focus on to help make it easier for UK food and drink companies to export to and operate in India. For a long time, India has had a reputation of being an overly difficult market. Every market is difficult. It's not easy to do business anywhere, but India has had a reputation as being overly difficult. That, I'm delighted to say, is changing. And this change is largely down to our next speaker, Dr. Amit Sharma, and his organisation, the FSSAI, which is the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. Now, the UKIBC and DIT work very closely with Amit and his team, and I'm pleased to say that it is a fruitful partnership. No pun intended, well, slightly. On this slide, there are examples of the reforms that have been introduced in the last year or two. Several of the reforms relate to labelling. There's also noteworthy reform through the introduction of the risk management system. That has also made a difference to make it easier for UK food and drink businesses to operate in and with India. And new markets opened in 2020 for alcohol-free beer and shea butter products, which were not recognised products in India until last year, and they have they've opened new markets, and UK exports to India are growing in those areas as a result of those reforms. Dr. Sharma is speaking next, and I look forward to hearing more about his approach to facilitating UK-India trade and investment. Now, this is just a quick snapshot of the food and drink sector in India. It's a big market and it's growing fast. It's worth over £300 billion and growing at 20% for the next 5 years. And there's an appetite, again, terrible pun intended, for UK food and drink products. This is driven by the growing middle and consuming class. And Minister Stewart just a few moments ago, indicated that is going to grow to be 1 billion people in the next decade. And that consuming class have got a familiarity with UK brands because of those close people-to-people links. And there's also, a recognition, again, touched on by Minister Stewart, that the UK provides top quality food. The top quality standards is a major selling point, not just in India, but around the world. On the right-hand side of this slide, this quality point is emphasised again. When we look at the best export opportunities, it's the high value food products that have got the greatest opportunity, I think, in India. And you'll see here, a range of segments where demand is greatest. And, a later speaker, Amit Lohani, will touch on these as well. Of course, if we look at the bottom left-hand corner of the slide, COVID has impacted the sector in India, both from a demand and a supply perspective over the last 12 months. And again, Amit from the Forum of Indian Food Importers will cover these points in more detail. So I will stop there. That is just an overview, a bit of context setting, and further future speakers will go into further detail on all of those points. I'll stop there and hand back to you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you for that snapshot and the introduction, Kevin. Please can I remind all of you that if you have got any questions, please put them into the chat bar just on the right-hand side of your screen. And we have got a Q&A round after this for Dr. Amit Sharma, and then one at the end as well. So please, any questions, please put them into the chat bar. I'm now pleased to introduce Dr. Amit Sharma, who's a Director of Imports at Food Safety and Standard Authority of India. He has a wide experience of standard settings and national and international level food safety audits of meat, poultry, dairy, food, fish and processed product establishments for domestic and export. He's a certified lead auditor and has several articles to his credit and has received national awards. Over to you, Dr. Amit.
Thanks for such a nice introduction. And in fact, this is the first of my interaction in the series of interactions which I am proposing to have with the overseas exporters and the manufacturers. And thanks to Amit Lohani and Shubhi for coordinating this meeting. And I presume that the participants would be not only the merchant exporters but also the manufacturer exporters, because some of the responsibility has to be owned by the manufacturers and some has to be owned by the merchant exporters. So this is an opportunity where the exporters or the manufacturers overseas can raise their concerns. We can also try to understand the ground challenges which are faced by them in the implementation of the regulations or the law by the importing countries. And we can jointly develop a compliant ecosystem so that ultimate aim is that my consumer may get a quality material, may get a safe material which is meeting my regulatory requirements. If you can start sharing the slide, then I can move ahead. But we have seen, and UK is the front runner in this field regarding the paradigm shift globally, which we have seen in the import of the food products, which has shifted from the end product criteria in the 90s to the system-based assurance system. And in fact, UK or the EU as a whole has taken a lead in this aspect. And our regulation for the inspection of the overseas manufacturer is one of the steps in this direction, where we are trying to align with the global best practices to ensure or strengthen the import food control systems. The common underlying principle of our entire efforts is that we understand that we have to reduce the transaction cost, we have to reduce the transaction time in executing or getting a consignment clear. We should reduce the unnecessary or avoidable regulatory burden on my exporter or the manufacturer, so that trade can move seamlessly. And for that reason, we are also concurrently trying to identify the impact of my different regulatory requirements on the compliance burden on my importer, and which may ultimately be passed on to my exporter as well. Which means that if I am asking a single extra information or a single extra document from my importer at the point of clearance, how much it is going to impact in terms of the cost and in terms of the time taken to provide that document or provide that information to my in the import clearance system. And for that purpose, we are also working with other departments like plant quarantine and animal quarantine, as well as the customs, with the basic idea that information once provided by any importer at the time of clearance to any department, whether it is customs or it is plant quarantine or animal quarantine, the same information or document may not be insisted by any other department, at least by the Food Safety Authority. And that's why we have been engaging with several countries, and we are proposing to provide the online access to my import clearance portal, so that these documents or information can electronically be transmitted. Please don't go back to the previous slide. I think you can go back to the previous slide, so that these documents can be transmitted electronically, so that my importer need not be required to upload any hard copies of any document to my office. This is just the preamble of the entire discussion, that my regulatory framework says that no person in India shall import any unsafe, misbranded or substandard food, or a food which contains extraneous matter, which is not permissible in my regulation. And all our efforts are directed to ensure the compliance to this provision of my Food Safety and Standards Act. I will just... Now, this is just for the information of the exporters, that in India, as of now, we are having 150 point of entries, which means food can be imported from these locations. So presently, we are located at 5 locations, covering almost 22 point of entries directly. And recently, we have started our office at Mundra in Gujarat and Krishnapatnam. And we are also proposing to start our office maybe by 10th of April at another locations, so that we may cover almost 80 to 85% of food import directly. So on other locations, the customs has been authorized to do the import clearance as per the Food Safety and Standards Act provision itself. Slowly, when we are increasing the ambit of the import clearance by the food safety officials directly, in due course of time, this is just for the information, in due course of time, it may happen that based on the technical competence available in the nearby ports, we may be restricting the import of a specific category of products at the certain ports only. Which means that if there is a ICD located in the northeast, where I do not have any lab facility available where I can do the testing for the meat, so the import of meat products may not be permitted in those locations. It will be permitted only from those locations where I do have a officials present, where I have the laboratory infrastructure available who can do the testing for those specific category of food products. So this is the thought, but it may take some time, but this is the process which is on the anvil and which may come up in due course of time. Recently, we have come up with a notification regarding the registration and inspection of the foreign food manufacturing facilities. And UK is already aware that several countries are already doing it. They are doing it in a different way. Like EU has a different set of process and regulatory framework by which they recognize the competence of exporting competent authorities. But again, different countries are doing it, and since there are certain processes which cannot be verified and tested at the point of entry itself, therefore we require some assurance, and for that purpose, the registration and the inspection of the foreign manufacturing facilities will be done in a stage-wise manner. Right now, it has been notified to the WTO, and in due course of time, we will come up with a detailed SOP for it. Here, I would just like to clarify that this registration and inspection will not be a prerequisite for import, which means that import clearance will go concurrent to this activity. If you look at the point number 3, where it is mentioned that the Central Board for Indirect Taxation, they have also made a list of mandatory documents which are required for the import clearance purposes. And now we are starting to capture the details of manufacturer in the ICE gate, so that if a compliant manufacturer who is supplying the material to say 10 different traders and who in turn are exporting to India, so if he is a compliant, then definitely his consignment shall be facilitated and cleared to the green channel, as compared to a manufacturer who is non-compliant. So we just wish to incentivize a compliant manufacturer and reduce the interceptions at the point of entry. The regulation which was notified is the requirement of non-GM origin cum GM free certificate, and it was required only for the 24 crops, and subsequently it was also clarified that it is applicable only for the food products, not for the animal feed or the poultry feed. It is also not applicable for the processed food. And as requested by EU and several other countries, certain relaxations were given, as if like this certificate can be issued by the state government authorities also, or this non-GM origin cum GM free statement can also be endorsed on a phytosanitary certificate or on a health certificate which is issued for every consumption. And as of now, I can say that with the initial hiccups, now all of the countries, they have agreed to issue this certificate. We are several EU countries have also agreed to issue this certificate, and in some cases they have requested for some modification in some of the information which we are discussing on a one-to-one basis. But as of now, the trade is moving on, and there is no issue in this requirement. The fourth is just a order which we have issued recently, that India has been importing a lot of rice syrups or the sugar syrups, and of late it was observed that some of it might have entered into the honey processing unit as a nutrition, and for that purpose we have mandated that whenever any such products or products with such HS code is imported, their end use or the traceability details has to be provided by the importer at the time of clearance purposes. And of course, the pre-packed foods which are imported, by some order we were permitting for the provisional NOC so that they can be cleared from the port, but not has been embedded into the notification. And recently we have permitted the use of these certain colors which were previously not permitted, which can be used in some alcoholic beverages. And we are also working for creating a separate category, as mentioned by Kevin, for the non-alcoholic beer. But previously, the beer terminology was not permitted unless it contains certain percentage of alcohol into it. But now it's permitted by some order, and we are incorporating a separate category also for the non-alcoholic beer. That process is going on. Regarding this authorization for use of shea butter in chocolate, actually, I just want to change this slide. So while we have this issue is going on for past some time, and the latest update in this regard is that we have developed the vertical standard for the shea butter, but it has to be incorporated in my regulation, product specific regulation for the chocolates. So that process is going on, and once it is done, then this authorization will be there for utilization of shea butter in the chocolate itself. So today, in fact, today in the morning itself, we have discussed that this issue is quite pending for quite some time, and we are again proposing an amendment in our regulation where it permits the use of shea butter in the chocolates separately. We are coming up with certain changes of course, as I said, that revamping an importer license may not be of much concern to the manufacturers overseas. However, in future, we are also going to do the registration of all the manufacturers. And we will be assigning a unique approval number to a specific manufacturer. And that manufacturer number will have to be mentioned on the export documents as well as on the packet. So that if one manufacturer is supplying a material to 10 or 15 importers through some traders, and if that manufacturer is non-compliant or is compliant, accordingly that the risk associated with that product and a particular consignment can be ascertained automatically by the system. We are also coming up with a regulation which will mandate the requirement of sanitary or health certificate for the import of food products. This may be notified to the WTO maybe by first week of April, latest by first week of April. And for certain category of products wherein we require assurance from the exporting competent authorities, this certificate will be required. It will not be applicable initially for all the food products. As I said, it will be applicable for say high-risk products in the beginning, maybe like for the dairy products or the meat product or for say baby food and all. Or it may also be applicable for even for a low-risk product for a specific country if lot of non-compliances are observed, especially for on the safety parameters. And as I said, that we are planning to furnish mandatorily the manufacturer details, so that activity is going on with the customs. We have a food import clearance system portal, and then we have a food licensing portal called FOSCOS and a laboratory network called InfoNet. Right now, all these portals were working independently, but we have already integrated the food import clearance portal with my licensing portal. And now we are also integrating it with my laboratory network. So that at the click of a button, I will have all the information pertaining to an importer or a particular to a laboratory or particular to a product. And the moment we start capturing this manufacturer information, so we should be in a position to get all the information pertaining to the manufacturer to which importer's material has been supplied by a particular approved manufacturer. And recently, we have also started a post-clearance surveillance activity, which is primarily done for the facilitated consignments, which are exempted from the customs from the green channel. And we wish to see whether they are complying to my labeling requirement, whether they are complying to my safety parameters requirement. And for that purpose, samples are drawn from the market and they are tested and examined. As I said in the beginning, that our efforts are to reduce the import clearance cost. And one of the steps is that we have already proposed and which has been agreed by the government itself, that we are imposing a basic food import clearance fee for the import purposes. And this fees will be very nominal in nature and it will subsume all the testing charges, which means that the importers at the importing end will not have to pay any testing charges at the point of for the clearance purposes. And multiple times where importer has to pay or go through the online portal, that requirement will also not be there once this basic food import clearance fee is there. And this fee will have to be paid at the time of paying the import duty to the customs. We are also coming up with a new import clearance portal. And broadly speaking about this portal, apart from the nitty-gritties, it will have a provision where there will be electronic message exchange with the overseas competent authorities. Like as I mentioned that we are going to ask for a health certificate or a certificate of origin or say non-GMO certificate. So these certificates can be electronically transmitted to us, number one. Number two, in case of any import alert, which means that any non-compliant consignment is observed, so we would be in a position to inform to the exporting competent authorities that this is a consignment, you please take corrective action and inform us. And here I would like to insist that UK IBC can take a lead and communicate to the concerned regulatory authority over there, so that we can have a seamless electronic message exchange and we are ready to accept the electronic certificate issued by the overseas competent authorities. Just to reduce the transaction time or time taken in scrutiny of any document at the import clearance purposes, We are also introducing a faceless scrutiny so that if any consignment is coming in at any port, it can be examined by an officer sitting anywhere in the country. It will not be located or examined by a person or by an officer who is posted at that near to the port only. And as mentioned by the Kevin, we already have a risk management system in place which is implemented at the ISKIT, and we are going to have a RMS in my own import clearance portal also, so that which will be dynamic in nature, and we can tweak it as per our requirement at a faster pace. And we are also developing a import food safety alert portal. Now this import food safety alert portal will be integrated to my import clearance portal, and it will provide the basic feed to the risk management system. And this portal will provide a profiling for the country specific risk associated with the country or with the manufacturer or for a product or a contaminant. And automatically based on this information, my RMS will tell me whether a particular consignment has to be diverted or examined for a specific contaminant, or whether I have to go for a focused sampling for a specific contaminant, especially for those contaminants which are heterogeneously distributed in the product, or whether I have to go for multiple samples in a particular consignment beyond the routine sampling. So once this information is available, that will help me in identifying a non-compliant consignment more and reducing the testing and going for a facilitation of the compliant consignments. And that's why the basic changes which we are proposing, that we are categorizing all sort of non-compliances which we are receiving at the importing end. And as I mentioned, that as per the RMS, whenever any import alert is raised, it will be communicated to the competent authority of exporting country to take a corrective action, and it further we are going to integrate it with my export rejection alert portal. So broadly speaking, it would be on the way the EU is having a rapid alert system for food and feed. It's a sort of the same on a smaller version of it. And primarily we are classifying all the non-compliances into 4 categories: the border rejections or the safety alerts, wherein the contaminants or toxins are present which are not permissible as per my regulation, or which are permissible but present beyond permissible limits, like for residues of veterinary drugs or heavy metals or antibiotics or pesticides, or use of the non-permitted food additives into it. The quality alerts are primarily on the vertical standards which are related to the nutritional values or the moisture or the color, flavor, etc. The labeling related discrepancies, of course, the consumer has a right to know about the label and the information available on it. And then the information alert, which will be primarily on the improper documentation like absence or improper analysis reports or health certificates or end use certificates or the certificate of origin. So my basic concern would be primarily on the safety alerts, which are definitely we would expect the exporting countries to take action on it and respond back to us. But for the labeling alert and the information alert, we would request them to aware the exporting fraternity so that this kind of non-compliances can be reduced. Before coming for this discussion, what we did is we tried to analyze that what kind of non-compliances we are observing for the consignments which are imported from UK. And while analyzing the data for past 3 years, we realized that primarily the non-conformance after testing of a product with respect to the safety is concerned, they were very minimal in number. So, which means that so far the safety of the products which are imported from UK is concerned, I can see that there are not much concerns about it. But when I look at the other issues, specifically related to the labeling related deficiencies, they were huge in number. Now, labeling related some regulations are there, and we can understand the challenges faced by the exporters or the manufacturers in complying to these requirements, because every country has their own labeling requirements, and the label has to be as per the importing country's regulatory framework. But still, and for that purpose only, we have provided certain rectifiable labeling related non-compliances so that those rectification can be done at the point of entry. The idea of providing that provision to rectify the labels at the point of entry is to encourage the compliance, however facilitating the one-off cases. But this rectifiable labeling shall not be considered as a right, and if the importer is saying that I will be importing only non-compliant labels and I will be rectifying 100% of time at the point of entry, that is not a desirable situation for us. Of late, we observe that there are certain consignments which are having a multiple stickers, or the information is not grouped, or this one sticker is placed with some information, and then over and above another sticker is placed with some other information. Now we don't know whether this sticker has been pasted by the manufacturer, or they have been pasted by the exporter, or they have been pasted even by the importer also. But when my officer proceeds for a visual inspection, they observe that multiple stickers on the same product are observed. Sometimes the batch code or details of the manufacturer are missing, so we ask them to rectify it, do it. And certain labeling related requirements, of course, even if since these labeling related requirements may not be there in the UK or in EU, like say for the MSG related declarations or declaration regarding presence of added flavor into it, or natural flavor or artificial flavor and all. But as I said, that export has to take place as per the importing country's regulatory requirement. So if it is a requirement of India to label if any flavor is added, that has to be there. And the purpose of highlighting these issues is that by complying to these basic requirements, we can avoid the detention of a consignment at the point of entry, and the efforts in rectifying the labels at the point of entry can also be reduced significantly. In certain cases, we have seen that non-permitted food additives were being used, and say for the alcoholic beverages, we later on when we revised and issued a notification that certain colors can be permitted, so this was reduced like anything. But still, in some of the processed food, we realized that some of the products which are permitted in EU but not in India. So again, that creates issue at for the clearance purposes. And these are the additives and certain ingredients which are of course permitted in certain countries but not in India. So again, the manufacturers or the exporters can take a stock of it, that what are the ingredients permitted in India, and accordingly they can reformulate their recipe or export according to it only. I think, and there was discussion about this labeling for wheat flour nomenclature. So I would just like to highlight that we have of course informed the Importers Association that as of now it is not applicable for the imported products for labeling for atta or maida and all, refined wheat flour and wheat flour. But we have not issued any official clarification in this regard. So now again, since this issue has been raised, so we will be issuing an official order or a clarification saying that this requirement is not applicable for the imported consignments. For the shelf life issue, it's applicable uniformly. So we have discussed this issue in the past also. Of course, some of the countries may not be having this requirement, but considering my regulatory framework and my enforcement activity as of now, it has to be at least 60% of the remaining shelf life is required at the time of import clearance. So there is no change, and even there is no proposal to make any changes into this stand as of now. For labeling regarding the high fat, salt and sugar, in fact today since morning and for the past 1.5 months, we have been engaging with the industry associations as well as with the consumer organizations. While as of now it is not mandatory to label it, but the consumer organizations are raising their voice that several countries have already implemented the requirement of labeling so that consumer is aware that he is consuming more salt or more sugar. And industry is also raising their concern about that what should be the threshold which may define that what is high and what is low into it. And the more we go deep into this issue, the more it gets complicated. So as of now, all I can say is that we are still discussing on this issue, and we hope that we neither get agreed with the industry and nor with the consumer organization, and we will come up with something else. But still, that is in the pipeline, and that may take significant time to come up with some requirement for this labeling for high fat, salt, and sugar into it. I think this is all which just I want to share. And in case any manufacturer or importer has any issue which they would like to raise right now or subsequently or anytime, then either through UPIBC or through FIFI importer organization or directly to us, they can write to us, and we would be definitely more than happy to respond to them as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amit. I'm now going to pass over to Shubhi Mishra, who leads on the UK India Business Council's Food and Drink Group and Trade Promotion Services based in Delhi for this Q&A session. Over to you, Shubhi.
To know that the UK companies are in compliance with food safety issue, it is indeed a statement which gives us more confidence. And also that we appreciate that FSSAI is providing the provision of rectification of the information with a caveat, and we will continue to engage with the UK companies in that line. We have plenty of questions from the audience with regard to the regulatory requirements for a specific products. I will not we can take those questions on individual basis, and if companies can write to us, we'll be happy to provide you with the link of those regulations which are specific for your products. Dr. Sharma, we have number of questions with regard to the audit of the international manufacturing facilities. Few questions are, few members are asking that there are incidents where Indian regulators, like duplicate regulators, are asking for similar requirement. For example, BIS has similar ask for audit of certain food and drink products. So if you can please throw some light on that, that would be helpful for the audience.
Actually, this we have also thought of this requirement that BIS is also mandatorily required for certain category of products, for 12 food products. And the moment this inspection of overseas manufacturer pitches in, there won't be any duplicacy. So either we will exempt those manufacturers from our inspection, or they will be exempted from BIS inspection. So there will be only one regulatory authority who will be visiting, who will be doing the audit of those for those products overseas, for the overseas manufacturers.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. And also we understand that the regulations are still at the draft stage, and once the regulations get formalized, we will have more fine lines to read about the high-risk products, the low-risk products, the procedure of audit, etc.
So basically what we are going to do is that, as I mentioned, that we are going to capture the details of the manufacturer right now. Mm-hmm. Right now, we are going to capture it through the information provided by the importer. But in due course of time, we may ask all the manufacturers to provide some KYC sort of information so that we can enroll them in my portal. And it will not be applicable for all the products. Say we may start with the meat products, which are significantly high risk for me, or we may go for the dairy products or for the poultry meat and all. But it will never happen that today India will never start going for the registration of all the manufacturers who are supplying the material to us. And once basic enrollment or some KYC information is available for the select product categories with a specific HS scores, then only we will start moving towards the registration, physical inspection of the overseas manufacturing facilities. But of course, whenever we start to undertake this activity, the competent authority of exporting country will be taken into confidence. So we won't be going directly to the exporting establishment. It will always be routed through the competent authority of the exporting countries.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. That is helpful to know. Another quick question is on the requirement of the certificate of analysis, which some of the members from audience believe is repetitive. and have a question that is FSSAI considering to revisit the same, or is FSSAI considering to revoke this India specific requirement?
So basically, when I look at the total basket of products which are being imported from UK, majority of them enters into the low risk category of products. This requirement is applicable only for the proprietary food items. And even for the proprietary food items, primarily they are low risk items. So 5% to 10% consignments are only referred to Food Safety Authority for examination purpose. So even if there is a duplicacy only for those 5 to 10% of the consignments only, not for the remaining 90% consignments for which there is no testing at the importing end. But as of now, there is no idea to revoke this requirement. But we have discussed this issue previously with Amit Lohani separately and with during importers meeting also. And we are trying to ease this out by revisiting the parameters which are required for the testing purposes. So this is on the pipeline. So this we will do, so that they may have more clarity that on what parameters the product has to be tested. And once that is defined, definitely this will reduce the compliance cost for the exporters also.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. We look forward to receiving based on that. So for rest of the queries, we will take liberty to reach out to you, Dr. Sharma, and also I understand you two have to get into your another engagement. So I'll hand it over back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Shubhi and Dr. Amit, for your time today and the insight you've given us on regulatory landscape for food and import in India. Thank you for the knowledge you have shared and with the Q&A, and hopefully a lot of companies have learned a lot and also have some more questions as well for what we have coming up. I'd now like to introduce Amit Lohani, who's the founder and director of FIFI, which is the Forum of India Food Importers, and the owner of Max Incorporation, which is a leading importer and exporter of high-value processed food items in India. He's a recipient of the fellowship from Fresno State University of California on cold chain management and infrastructure development. Over to you.
Thanks, Mark. A very warm good evening to everyone in India, and a good afternoon to everyone in UK. It's a great pleasure to be invited for this UKIBC and DIT session. And first of all, I should thank Kevin, Shubhi, and Paul for inviting me for this session, and Dr. Sharma for giving his considerable time. At the end of the day, I always say in India, food safety is the premier government body which either curtails or releases shipments. So it's very important to have our voices heard, and Dr. Sharma has been more than pragmatic over the years since I've been working with him in terms of understanding the nuances and the challenges that we face on ground. So we sometimes are also his eyes and ears on the ground, telling him that what's happening on a certain port, because the people on the level of the central authorities sometimes are not even aware of smaller issues which might pop up by a small officer, and we keep on updating him on that. So what we are going to talk about is what is India all about. Minister Stewart has definitely given a nice opening in terms of the 1 billion population for the Indian audience or Indian consumers. But I would assure you that it's not 1 billion who's going to consume your product. For any British products, you should be looking at only about anywhere between 15 to 20 million people in the niche and the upper middle class category. And then about another 100 million gets added if you are in that category of the consuming class, which understands British products. So Forum of Indian Food Importers, it's a 12-year-old organization, primarily working as an NGO, which is not for profit, promoting food products into the country, being that one source of legitimate importers in India, which was a huge challenge earlier. And that is something that we are trying to avoid, to make sure that you're meeting the right buyer and not hanging up with someone who might not be doing justice to your brand or to your product. As an association, we represent now about 5,500 members. We represent more than 2,000 brands from across the world, more than 250 countries. We have a buying power of about $5 billion plus. And as I stated earlier, that our forte is to have these B2B interactions, which are going to start on the 22nd of March. But we also work very closely with various ministries across the spectrum in India to make sure that our voice is heard. We are not government funded. So, when we go and talk to the organizations or the ministries or their subheads or autonomous bodies like food safety, we kind of raise our concerns quite vociferously and try to tell them that these are some of the challenges, so that the image of India, which is that it is a very restrictive country, should smoothen out. Restrictions are all across the world. We find them with our exporters, because a lot of our importers are joint venture partners and are exporting to various parts of the world. So we see restrictions in every category, but something that we can smoothen the transition of products coming into the country, and especially when it is a low risk category product, as Dr. Sharma has clearly stated. Now, this is what India has, 1.3 billion people, 17% of the world population, almost every sixth person in the world is an Indian. 50% of population being below the age of 25. The difference between India and China, and I keep on talking about it, is that India is a young country. It's getting younger day by day. China is getting older day by day. So over a period of time, you'll find consumption patterns going a downward hill in China, though access to China is much easier. The reason for that has been, and I was there at one of these sessions with the Chinese counterpart of an import-export organization. And what she stated was that Chinese don't trust their own products in terms of food. So when the Chinese are not trusting their own products, that's why they rely too much on international food. Where on the other side, Indians have great trust on their brands. We have iconic brands like Amul, Parle, Mother Dairy, which have been there for so many generations, and the brand loyalty has been going on. So that's very important for the Indian market. Our production facilities are top of the notch. We are working with large brands, big companies like Ferrero Rocher, Mondelez, Nestle. They have set up huge plants in India to do production in India, because they understand that if they want to do mass production, the only way to do that is produce in India. So UK is looking at a very niche and upper middle class category, but that is something definitely an export can work with. But if you want to reach the next level of evolution, you need to come down to India, do some investments over here, get a joint venture partner and produce in India. That is going to give you the scales which is required. We've had a recent example of Eat Real Chips. They started a plant in Gujarat, though he's an Indian origin, so that maybe had some benefits to it. But that is something which has already happened. The perception that Indians are vegetarian is absolutely wrong. 70% of us eat meat. It is incorrect to say that Indians only eat vegetarian food. And we are an agri-based economy, and also the middle class currently is about 400 million people. The number of outlets in India is about 9.3 million. So it's not a firmed up number. It could be 9.5, it could be 10 million. The reason is that 92% of the market is unorganized. So you have to capture that unorganized market. You need to find the right importer to capture that unorganized market, which is very important. So you need to understand that as a market strategy for India. So what is India doing? India is about $400 billion in terms of the F&B market. The imports currently are about 25 billion and exports are about 38. We always have a trade surplus with most of the countries across the world, because India is able to produce at much lower rates than other parts of the world and is able to do high quality products. The alcobev trade is highest for UK companies, and it's about 120 million. So that means we are buying a lot of alcohol from you guys. So that's something which is definitely there. But what are the categories which are growing right now? And Kevin did touch on some of those categories: tree nuts, health products, free foods, food preparations, high value goods. Most British brands come into that high value goods category. So you have to understand that this is what it is going to be. And in further slides, I would be able to showcase to you how an Indian consumer is paying for the same British product, what a British consumer is paying for the same product. So that is something that I'm going to show. These are some of the factors which are both positive and the challenges which India faces. We have more working women, which makes it convenient. Convenience becomes a very important factor for the purchase decisions made by households. Rapid urbanization, everyone is coming down to the cities. So if you look at it, we have about 65 to 70 cities which have a population of over 1 billion people. So that's the way the urbanization is happening. Dual earning households have always made sure that you are spending more and more on processed foods and groceries, though the Indian consumers do like fresh a lot and they prefer fresh over processed food. The digitalization makes it easier for all you companies to do social media and activations. We have growing awareness of all these products. That is the key of the driving factors in India. Tariffs are always going to be high, and it's across the board. I had the opportunity to meet your Secretary of State recently, and I did inform her of the same issue that, don't fight the tariffs right now. If you're able to get a free trade agreement, that's fantastic, because that's the way to go. Countries which have gained out of that have been Southeast Asia, Chile, and a lot of other countries where they have had these free trade agreements, and the growth in that sector or growth from that country has gone at least quadruple. So that is something that you should look at. Infrastructure challenges will remain. Cold chain is a challenge in India. So for your chilled and dairy products and ice creams, it would be a bit challenging. But importers have been able to create a very nice, efficient network of their cold chain preferences. India is a large, vast country, so it's impossible for us to have offices all across. Do not expect any importer to have offices across the country. And if someone is telling you that he has offices across the country, most probably he's lying. The reality is we have distributors and sub-distributors, which is what you should look at. Someone who has a larger depth of distribution, because with these distributors, we align our sales force. That makes it easier to control. Language is a big problem. I cannot speak to a guy in Chennai because his language might be different. He might be speaking Tamil. So I need to have a person who's able to speak the local Tamil language. Similarly, in Maharashtra also, I need to hire someone who knows Maharashtrian. So language is a big barrier, which is there in India. Though English is a common language which is there, so all our invoices are in English. We don't use Hindi, and sometimes I find it strange that companies would tell us that, do you need Hindi on your product? We don't need Hindi on our product. We only need English language, which should be the predominant language in terms of the market. Pandemic. Now, this image I recently took while my drive back from office. This is a street vendor on a cart. So I was, something which is strange that in India, if you have households and living in colonies, we have these carts coming around our houses and they sell fruits and vegetables fresh to us. So that's the level of convenience India has. I'm sure that it would not be possible in UK or any other part of the world. But, these guys would come to us, they'll sell to us. They are regular vendors every day in the morning, 11 o'clock. They'll be standing down. They'll be kind of hooting. And my mother or my wife or anyone, the cook or the chef is going to go down, pick up some vegetables. Obviously, they don't sell exotics, but this guy is selling exotics. And if you look at it, he's wearing a mask because of COVID, but he's using his hand to clean the apple or shine the apple, and a napkin of his own, which is not as per COVID protocols, but he's doing that. If you look at it, he's digitalized. He's already accepting money which is digital. That phone pay is like digital money. You can transfer money to this guy without even touching his hands or exchanging money. But his weighing scale is still non-digital. It's still using the old weights which are there. The other thing is, you see the apples which are there, they have these stickers, which is that they're selling Washington apple. And so imagine that a Washington apple, which is coming from the farms in Washington, is sold by a street vendor. He's selling it at £2 a kilo, and consumers are buying that. So there is no cold chain. This is at about, right now, Delhi weather is about 30 to 32 degrees centigrade. So imagine this apple coming out of a cold store and being sold like this. But the fact that he sells, and other people like him, which is 95% of the market, sell about $300 million worth of apples, that gives you an idea of what is the size of the market, what is the scale of the market. So market penetration is unparalleled for these guys. And during COVID, they have done tremendous business. So that is something which is very important and a key for your success for your brands in the country. This is INA market, which is part of Delhi. Again, someone who doesn't have air conditioning, he's selling chocolates. I sell my chocolates to this guy. And but he has a fridge which he's got from Cadbury's, but he's going to soup in some of my chocolates inside that, because I can't offer chocolates fridge to every vendor who's going to be there, but Cadbury's can afford to do that. And if you look at the products, he's stacking everything up to the top. This is a 300 square feet store. Average rentals are about £3,000 to £5,000 per month, and he has to recover this money. You have exotic fruits from Thailand on the left-hand side. I'm able to see Davidoff coffee in the back. I'm able to see honey in the back. There is no merchandising as such, but all he's trying to do is use every inch of space. And you'll find a lot of British products on the left-hand side. I'm able to see some Weetabix and other products which are mainly British origin. So this is what the market is. This is what everyone has to capture. And this is the most difficult market to tap. Everyone is not going to show you this because everyone is going to tell you, let's go to a Nature's Basket or a food hall or something which looks nice and we can keep up the image of India in front of you guys. But the reality is this is 90% of the market, and I'm going to show you this. Yes, these guys are very important, but they only control about 7 to 8% of the total sales of your products in the country. So, and these people are very strategically located. They know their shoppers by their names. So every time you go there, they're going to offer you some tea or refreshment, coconut water, which makes an Indian consumer very happy. It's a very relationship-based market. And he would have one of these guys roaming around with you, picking up stuff and stacking it up, which an organized retailer cannot do. So that is something which is very unique to this market and has always made sure that this market sustains. Everyone, when all the big giants came in, everyone said that this market is going to die out. During COVID, these guys did 400% in terms of volumes. So they increased their volumes by 400%. Organized retail was only able to increase it by 125%, whereas e-commerce was able to increase it by almost 100%, but their base is so small, which I'm going to talk in one of my other slides. This is food hall. Looks very swanky. Everyone loves to have their product over there. My products are there. Every importer's products would be there. Every time someone comes in from UK or Europe or any part of the world, we definitely take him over there. But the reality is it's still 7% of my market. So, you guys are happy to see your product over here. But in terms of numbers, this is not the biggest chunk of the market. Yes, they have merchandising. They have 5,000 square feet stores. They are growing at about 30%, which is great. But there are a set of challenges. Food hall, which is Future Group, is now bought over by Reliance. There is still some issues going on with that purchase, which has happened recently. It's still stuck up somewhere with Amazon, which was part of Future Group, trying to object to some of it. But that is how the market is. There are other players which are there in this market. And, the surges have been seen at these stores as well. But the reality is most of these stores are in malls, and malls were shut down for at least 3 months of COVID. And we only had 4 hours to, kind of get into COVID. Our Prime Minister came on a television screen, told us, okay, you have 4 hours. I'm shutting everything down. Go and buy your groceries. And we had to rush out to buy all our groceries. And the organized retail was not able to cope up with it, but the unorganized retail was absolutely able to cope up with it. They opened their shop at 6 in the morning and they were servicing us till 12 in the night. So they were only getting 4 hours of sleep, but they were getting huge growth and loyalty from consumers like us. This is travel retail, again, very important for eyeballing. So if you want 500,000 people to see your product every day, travel retail is the only segment where you can do that. But the fact that it only caters to high value products, impulse purchases from chocolates, mint, gummies, some bit of snacks, some bit of water, that is something there. But international travel has been completely shunned from the last almost now 14, 15 months. I've not traveled international in the last 14 months. So that's a pity because, we used to bring a lot of our goods and groceries for in-house, my home from abroad, which is not happening now. So I have to rely on local purchases. And but yes, this is very important. Relay and W Smith are the largest player in this category. So if any of you have products which would fit in this category, that's a great market opportunity for everyone to be. E-commerce, everyone talks about it across the world. Total share in the Indian F&B market is only 0.5%, has grown by 100%, so still it is at 1%. You cannot rely on this segment for the longest period of time. Yes, it's a great marketing tool if you have deeper inroads to get. If your brand is known, if someone can search for those brands, yes, definitely you can enter this market. You can have penetration to the smallest town. Amazon and Big Basket are the largest players. Big Basket being a larger player in terms of doing about 70 to 80,000 deliveries every day. And that is predominantly because of convenience. Consumers also prefer discounts, which is only happening at e-com players. And they prefer saving time. But the reality is that touch and feel is definitely required for the market. And if you know a brand, then people are consuming those brands. They can go online and buy those products. But for any kind of impulse or new brand launches, e-commerce becomes quite difficult because the consumer doesn't know the brand. He's going over there searching for a particular brand and then only can buy that brand. So that's very important in terms of e-commerce. So this is how COVID has come up for people like us who love food. The first phase, these are all pictures taken by me. The first phase was when I was cooking everything at home, whatever products I had collected over the last 6 months during my travels, I was using them to make different things. A lot of people were doing that. So all of a sudden, consumption for bakery mixes, pasta, sauces, all these cuisines, the demand grew tremendously, and that was very important. Then came in cloud kitchens. Everyone started investing in cloud kitchens. We were getting at least 3 to 4 cloud kitchens opening up every day because consumers were not willing to go out. Though the hospitality sector was down by 90% and still is down by about 70%. So the hospitality is the worst hit sector. The retail sector has still been promising. We've seen surges of the retail sector. Obviously, different categories have performed differently. Our domestic companies have done tremendous business. Their profitability has touched the roof. And still we find that consumers are not willing to go to restaurants which do not have outdoor seating. And that has become one of the challenges. But that also is only for another 10-15 days because the weather in India is going to go touch about 35 to 38 degrees. And outdoor sitting is not going to help. So that is, a big challenge. A lot of lunchtime economies have gone down the drain because restaurants, a lot of offices have been shifted. The employees have been told to work from home, and the office cafes which were closer to complexes where there were 500,000 people has completely been devastated. So we are really hoping that the market opens up and we get to have these products again and again and consume them furthermore. This is how India supply chain dynamics works. You are an exporter, as Dr. Sharma said, that you might not. I'm not talking of a manufacturer because obviously that's one of the keys. The manufacturer can be an exporter, or sometimes the manufacturer is just a manufacturer and exporter is someone else. The shipping charges, regulation, the custom duties, importer's margin, distributor, point of sale, and consumer. That's the way Indian market works. If you look at it, how we derive an MRP, I always say in my presentations, you have to do a 4x calculation for ambient products. You have to do a 5x or 5 times your FOB price for your chocolate products. For alcoholic product, it ranges from 10 to 15 times. So your exporter is sending me something at 1 GBP. There are shipping costs, which is 5 to 6%. Basic custom duty is about 30%, along with social welfare surcharge. Clearances are about 10 to 12%. GST is about 12 to 18%, depending on categories. Local logistics are about 4 to 5%. Importers' margin range from about 15 to 25%. We don't make all the margins. We love to drive big cars, but that does not mean that if I'm coming in a big car, I've made all the money from selling food. There are other businesses that we get in and we make our money over there. So please do not think that importers are making all the margins. The retailer definitely does make about 40 to 50% of the margin, and the distributor margin is about 10 to 12%. So this is the chain, and this is going to be very important for you, all your export houses, if they work a backward calculation. So imagine that you're selling, I'll give you an example. Today, if you buy Haribo in UK, they are going up here, they're price marking it at 1 GBP or £1. The current price in India for Haribo is about 2.5 pounds. So an Indian consumer is paying 2.5 times of what a British consumer is paying. Whereas the price parity or the GDP or anything else that you compare, India would be much lower than UK, but the Indian consumer is paying 2.5 to 3 times of what you guys are paying for your products over there. So you have to understand that dynamics. And it's very important for you to have your strategy based on those dynamics. This is the label that Dr. Sharma was talking about. All this is required on the product. It's not easy. It's time consuming for people to understand, but these are very common things which are there. India does have some specific requirements which are there for Indian consumers, because we believe our consumer is naive or innocent or stupid. That's something that I don't agree with, but the government believes and the consumer groups do believe that we have consumers who don't understand what they are buying, and every country of the world is trying to throw or dump their product in our country, which doesn't happen. And I have said this time and time again. It's impossible to dump anything in India because at the price points that you are buying the product, we cannot do that. But name of the product, veg, non-veg logo, ingredients, these are things which are very common to any product which UK would be exporting. Now, obviously, this is something where we are talking of rectifiable labels. That's very important to understand. That rectification is allowed at 3 points. First point is at the manufacturer level. Second point is at the exporter level. And third point is at the time of imports, we in India can do that at a custom bonded warehouse. And that's what Dr. Sharma was talking about. These are some of the things which are rectifiable. If you see, there is a small label, which is a fixed sticker with the vegetarian and food safety logo and number. And now Dr. Sharma has just scared me with telling me that I need to put the manufacturer's some unique code on the product, which is going to be a nightmare because I'm not going to buy a full container load of anything in the beginning. I'm going to start with 1 pallet or 2 pallet or 5 pallets of your product. If that does well, then I would come back to you and say, okay, let's start producing for India. Now, till that point of time, I am shunning out a lot of these opportunities which are going to happen. So, I would definitely speak to Dr. Sharma later that, if this is going to happen, this is going to create a lot of issues for us because it's impossible for every small manufacturer to put their manufacturing unique number on the product. And it's going to be nightmarish for us. These were the non-tariff barriers that everyone talks about in India. And this is one of those. So this is there. And this is one of the delegations, I think last year, 2019, as far as I remember. And obviously, Paul is here. Paul has better hair now than he used to have at that point of time. So I like Paul's hairstyle now better. But, do your due diligence with your business partners, very important. The challenge in India is I get a lot of calls from embassies and diplomatic missions. How is this importer? And I would tell them, I've never heard of him. And they would tell me, no, but he's saying that he is the largest importer. And the reality is he's not the largest importer, but because you guys want to listen to this, that everyone is the largest importer, they give you this lie that we are the largest importer. We are not the largest importer. We have small sizes, medium sizes, large size companies. Average size of an importing firm is anywhere between 1 million pounds, goes up to about 10 to 15 million pounds. The large size companies, which are 15, 20, 30 million pounds, are normally in mass product category. They are not in the niche or the upper middle category, which we cater to. Make sure that you do your compliances. Make sure that you understand what is compliance is all about. Do not send your containers just because someone told you to send your containers. Work with UKIBC, work with FIFI, work with other organizations if you have one. Try to get your product. Do not hire the first person who sends you his information about being a consultant for your brand in the country. I get 100 calls every month that I'm a consultant representing this brand. He does not know anything. He's a yes man who's going to say everything that you want him to say. So please do not do that. Do your due diligence in that aspect also. Do not hire someone for £1,000 believing that he's going to get access to you in India because he speaks Hindi or he's Indian. That's not going to happen. Make sure that you have your virtual engagements. Plan on retail promotions. You cannot just sell your product in India. Make sure that your promotions are there. You do e-commerce, you do social media, you use influencers, you participate at trade shows. UKIBC is doing one trade show with us, which is AHAR, which is going to be starting on or initiating on the 6th of April till the 10th of April, one of the largest food shows. Last year, we had about 50,000 trade visitors. Before that, there were about 70,000. This year, we are expecting about 20,000 because of COVID SOPs. So do that. Hospitality events right now, I would say a big no-no because hospitality sector is not doing well. One mantra that I would give everyone, please make sure the 3 E's are there in your diary or daily book or whatever you want to do. Engage with India, enter and establish yourself. It's a long run market. Think of a marathon. It's not going to be a sprint. It's going to be challenging. I've been working with a lot of players in the UK market, and some of them might not be happy because I have not been able to give success to their brands. And that is a challenge, but we've tried our level best to give success. Why would I not want a British brand to be successful in India? I put all my effort and all my money and all my resources to get your brand successful, but it is also the consumer who makes that decision. I can only place it on a certain level. At the end of the day, it is the consumer decision who's paying for the product. And I have already invested in your brand, so that is something that shows my commitment to you. These are some of the brands which have been quite successful in India. And that would give you an idea of what India market is all about, the category of brand, the categorization of brand. obviously, Johnny Locker Blue Label is definitely successful, or Black Label is more successful than the Blue Label because of the price point, and everyone knows Black Label, so that's something which is definitely there. And if you have any questions or queries, I'm more than happy to answer. Thank you so much.
Amit, thank you very much for that. That was really, really interesting. Thank you so much. I'm now pleased to introduce the Food and Sector Lead for the Department for International Trade Southwest, Paul Abele. Paul's been with DIT for coming up to 9 years and has led on such initiatives as the Great British Food Programme, many Meet the Buyer events in real life and virtual to support Southwest and UK producers export. Paul is the International and Innovation and Delivery Manager and is going to talk you through the future of the Great British Food Programme. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Mark. Just thank you to Amit, Kevin, Minister Stewart. We really have unpacked what the market looks like, what the opportunities are, and what's got to be considered. What I'm going to do, I'm very aware that there's been a lot of chat going on, so I'm going to try and rattle through my slides, give you a flavour of what we're looking to do, and let's try and get some of these questions answered. Everything's being recorded, so you can review what I'm saying afterwards. And if you want to get engaged, reach out to us. So, as Amit has already said, we are next week. There is a virtual Meet the Buyer. We had planned to engage with a physical event, but obviously we couldn't at this time. So we've got over 100 companies, UK producers, engaging with importers, distributors, and retailers. And I believe it's the largest engagement with UK producers into the Indian market. So it just shows how critical it is, how much interest there is at this moment in time to engage. Rolling through to AHA, as again Amit has said, we're working both hand in glove with FIFI, with UK IBC and Shubi to put on a physical stand at the show. So this will be a brochure stand. It will be manned by both FIFI staff and UK IBC on our behalf. The idea is we will capture the interest and then pass that back to you in a structured format for you guys to then follow up. One of the other things we've been doing, we've seen a lot of store promotions we've been trying to do. So the images here are from a store promotion in Dubai, which was Al Maya. We're now looking at potentially doing a pop-up shop or a promotion in India. We may look at doing 2 centres. We're not sure yet. We're just looking around the logistics, what we can do, and working with partners such as Amit and FIFI and UK IBC to make this happen. As soon as the information is out, we will share this across the platform and using the Open Doors campaign. The physical event, Amit, I have the same photo, and I'm not sure my hair looks any better these days, but thank you ever so much. People buy from people. Physical events, that's where we want to get. The relationships are built, the questions, things are missed that you in the virtual world you may not get. So as soon as we're able to, we are planning to get physical events back in. Trust me, we will be working with UK IBC and FIFI to make sure we have a strong delegation coming over, and we get you guys that want to meet with these people in front of them. So again, just watch this space. How do you get future information? You guys, you've come from the platform. You've got your ITA network. Reach out to your ITAs. Reach out to Shubi at UK IBC. The Great British Food Programme, we've got the information of what we're doing on there. And then the DEFRA have released the report. Now, there are some out-of-date information on the report. As with everything, as soon as something's published, things move forward. But again, it gives you a good flavour. And I think the content of today and that report will give you a really good idea of what the market looks like. But then go and investigate, ask your questions, engage with the right people, do your research. But everybody that's been on the call today is there to help you. So please use us as you can. And then, as I said, India specific, what we're doing, the Meet the Buyer, AHA trade show, the pop-up store, the physical Meet the Buyer. They're open to all producers. If you've got an interest, let us know. Our website's on the bottom there that you can reach out to us. But we're here to help. We may not have the answers, but we've got the network behind us that have those answers, that experience. So please, just reach out to us. As I said, I wanted to rattle through that to get you through to the Q&A and hopefully get some questions answered. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Paul. And we can't wait for real life events to happen as well when we're allowed to do it. We're very much looking forward to it. So can I please remind everyone that if you have got any questions, please put them into the chat and we'll try our best to get through them. And any that we can't answer, we will get back after the event. I'm now going to hand back over to Shubhi.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Amit ji, for such an amazing presentation. And before I move forward, I would firstly like to congratulate you on your recent India Achievers Award, and would like to thank you for all the great work you're doing for the industry through your association. We as DIT and UK IBC appreciate and greatly value this relationship. So Amitji, we have few questions, and the first one is that the requirement of sanitary import permit for dairy food items is getting trade restrictive. Do you have any thoughts on the same?
So we've been meeting the Department of Animal Husbandry and Fisheries, which kind of controls the sanitary import permit and then the health certificate which is required with it. So the government is trying to use this as a barrier for sure, and they delay issuing sanitary permits when they wish to, especially for dairy products. The moment the pharma industry or the farming industry and the dairy producers in India create a huge ruckus, they end up slowing down the process. Now, they always tell us that there is some kind of technical issues, but we know that this is a non-tariff barrier, and we've been pursuing the Joint Secretary and Dr. Sagar, which are predominantly running that organization. And we've been apprising them that these kind of challenges are not good for India, especially now when India is kind of working towards getting their ease of doing business rankings up. It's very important that we showcase the reality to them. And in terms of ease of doing business, make sure that things have smoothened out. The earlier issues were that they used to accept physical applications. We have been working closely with them in the last 1-2 years. They've started taking virtual applications or email applications, which has made things easier, but still the challenges of not having a citizen charter, that we are not sure whether we'll receive the result of the SIP within 2 days or 20 days or 2 months, is something which is absolutely not there. So we are trying to pursue that, but because it is a very sensitive topic, and dairy and meat are always that high risk category that every country wants to protect, so it becomes a challenge, but we are working towards it.
Thank you, Amitji. Next question is on the requirement coming up for baby food category, given that consumer dynamics is changing and they're getting more careful about the food safety, especially when it comes to kids. So do you see more growth coming, attributing to factors like this for the segment?
Absolutely. The baby food category is one single category which has been growing tremendously. Also, this is it doesn't have that price benchmarking as other categories. When it comes to consumers who are paying for their baby's food, they're willing to go that extra mile if they understand that it's a big brand. Two large brands in India are Abbott Nutrition and Nestle, which have been doing tremendous business. But we see great opportunity for brands like SMA and other categories coming in from UK. So that is there, but it is a challenging category because again, there is with baby food, you have BIS, which is Bureau of Indian Standards, and you have to apply for that, which is not easy, and you need to work very closely. And it's a long-term market and long-term strategy for baby food. It's not going to be like crackers and biscuits where you don't need anything and you just start importing the product, do your test market, and get it done with, and whatever results come in, you can go with that. But with baby food, you have to have consistency. You have to have a strategy in mind, and you have to work towards getting that certification from BIS.
Thank you so much. As you know that we have number of Alcobev companies sitting in our audience and also visiting the virtual trade mission. I'm mixing a few questions here. Is that they're keen to know how is the response coming for the sector, given that HoReCa sector has seen a massive hit and social outings are also limited. They also want to know if e-commerce is permitted for Alcobev in India and can they advertise their product range in country?
So let's go for the last one first. Yes, you can do surrogate ads, which is stupid, that we'll find some company which has got nothing to do with water or dairies, and they, Kingfisher is making dairies which has got nothing to do with that. So we know, everyone knows, as I said, that Indian government believes that our consumers are stupid, and by giving them a water bottle which is named by any large brand of Alcobev is not going to change anything. But the reality on ground is that you cannot do any advertising for Alcobev companies. We have a taboo in India. We don't consider alcohol as something which is good or something. We create images of alcohol with like people are getting drunk all the time, which is not a reality. People are very quite convincingly drinking in their limits. But yes, we have a few states where alcohol is banned, which still buy the most amount of illicit liquor which comes into the country or is produced locally. So everyone knows about it. Whether it is Gujarat or Bihar, which have banned alcohol, still we find a lot of products being sold over there. But in reality, yes, it's a challenging market. The downfall of the hospitality industry has definitely hit the market bad. The CSC canteens have really hit the market again very bad, because all of a sudden we were Atmanirbhar and we wanted to do self-reliant, and we were not allowing international category of products being sold through army canteens, which cater to obviously the army people. And that has been also a pitfall or something which has put alcohol companies under stress. But I think what we've seen is the day the state governments realize that Alcobev is one of those sectors which is the highest revenue generator. And when Delhi opened up their Alcobev stores, we had lines which were 2 kilometers, giving you an idea what the market is all about. So no matter how much you curtail sales of alcohol, consumers who want alcohols are going to buy it no matter where they buy it from. So I don't think so. This is a very, it's a trend which is very initial, and I think over a period of time you are going to succeed, and Alcobev is going to be great in India, and it's a good market. In fact, you should always talk about conscious drinking. You should talk about other things, promote that in your drinking regime, but rather than restricting is not something that I believe it ever helps in curtailing the market.
Thank you so much, Amitji. And just to add on to that for audiences' awareness is that when you are getting into your B2B meetings next week with the Alcobev companies, please be mindful that when you are conversing with purchase managers of hotels or the retailers, that you cannot engage in a conversation relating to trade promotion of the product. You have to talk, the conversation by law needs to be limited in the direction of that it is a business-to-business meeting only. So please be mindful of this when you are engaging with the companies next week you will be introduced with. With that, Amitji, I'll move to the next question. Do you have any technical suggestion for the businesses to consider in terms of pricing and packaging the product specifically for the India market?
So as Dr. Sharma was stating, that if you have to package it for India, it's fantastic. If you have large volumes, definitely you should package it for India. Make sure that your packaging includes the Southeast Asia market, so that way you are able to use the same label or packaging for both these markets. But the reality is most British brands, when they come in the initial stage, always start small. So I'm skeptical that any small company or large company will be able to adhere their lines. I know that Walker's took almost 1.5 years to change their label to be India specific. And that also they could only do it for 6 of their categories instead of the entire line. So it's not easy to do that. And it's a big challenge. But if you're able to do that, it's a fantastic thing. Consumers really play more, they stand more with brands who have changed to India packaging. Definitely that adds to the value of the product.
Thank you so much, Amitji. I'm just conscious of time because we have already exceeded by about 10 minutes. For any further questions, please feel free to write to us. As Paul rightly said, that we are very much here. I won't say this for Amitji, but for us, we are getting paid to help you find more gravity in India market. So please divert your queries to us, be it in the regulatory space, policy advocacy, or trade promotion side of it. We work very closely with associations like FIFI to find better grounds for UK businesses in India. With that, I would like to thank everyone for joining in and pass back the stage to Mark. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to thank all of the speakers today for your time and for sharing all your knowledge and expertise. I'd also like to thank Lucy Carr, Jenny Pisoni and Annie Kislingbury for running the event today. From myself, Business West, the Department for International Trade Southwest, the Great British Food Programme, the UK India Business Council and the Forum of Indian Food Importers. Thank you everyone for joining us and we hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you. Goodbye.